years, mostly on Leadership Journal, documenting the state of the art in Christian ministry. And I also edited for a time Christian History magazine, a surprise and delight for my dad. The history I learned from Bruce Shelley served me well. At CT, we sometimes reminded ourselves that we were writing the first rough draft of church history. It's a tumultuous and ongoing story of innovation, conflict, drift, repentance, renewal, victory, failure, and ultimately, an imperfect but ultimately prevailing demonstration of faith and hope and love. Church History in Plain Language continues to serve as an excellent introduction to that story of the ever-developing Christian movement. Since 1982, it has remained perhaps the best on-ramp for those wanting an overview of church history. Readers find it accessible, educational, and enjoyable. 3 words that capture what every student hopes a text will be. This 5th edition brings Church History in Plain Language a bit more up to date by focusing on the globalization of the Christian faith throughout its history, especially in the 21st century. Not many one-volume surveys of church history get to a 2nd edition, let alone a 5th. This edition also features more than 50 profiles of faith, brief introductions to some of the women and men, especially non-Europeans, who made important contributions to church history but are often overlooked in other surveys of the Christian story. Like the first 4 editions, this edition maintains a strong emphasis on clarity, scholarship, and storytelling, while bringing readers into the rapidly changing era of the 21st century. As general editor, I could not have pulled together this refreshed and updated 5th edition without the contributions of many colleagues. Professors Scott Klingsmith and Scott Wenig have taught many semesters of church history using this text, and they helpfully pointed out areas omitted in earlier editions. Randy Hatchett did an excellent job editing the 4th edition of Church History in Plain Language to engage new students. Ryan Tafilofsky and Brandon O'Brien and Kathleen Mulhern all contributed strong new chapters to the 5th edition. Profiles were researched and written not only by Ryan and Kathleen, but also by David Shelley and Stacy Shelley Lingle. I'm indebted to Stan Gundry, who had a vision for the value of a 5th edition and brought it into the Zondervan academic fold. Katya Kovret and Brian Phipps have been gracious and helpful editors, shepherding this project through its many phases. And there are so many others who contributed maps and timelines, indexing, proofreading, production work, and more. I'm so grateful to each and all. As the son, former student, occasional co-author, and ongoing devotee of Bruce Shelley, I admit my biases when it comes to my admiration for him as a teacher, scholar, writer, and guide. He would be delighted with this edition of the book. He knew that the story of church history goes on, so I encourage you, dear reader, to embrace the story of where we've come from and to contribute your part to where the church is going. Marshall Shelley, Director, Doctor of Ministry Program, Denver Seminary. Prologue. For years, I kept a cartoon on my study door. Students who stopped to read it often stepped into my office smiling. It encouraged easy conversation. It was a peanut strip. Charlie Brown's little sister Sally is writing a theme for school titled Church History. Charlie, who is at her side, notices her introduction. When writing about church history, we have to go back to the very beginning. Our pastor was born in 1930. Charlie can only roll his eyes toward the ceiling. Many Christians today suffer from historical amnesia. The time between the apostles and our own day is one giant blank. That is hardly what God had in mind. The Old Testament is sprinkled with reminders of God's interest in time. When he established the Passover for the children of Israel, he said, "Tell your son it will be like a sign that the Lord brought us out of Egypt." Exodus chapter 13, verses 8 and